"I'm sorry, ma'am," the courthouse clerk said gently, sliding the marriage license back across the counter. "If he doesn't arrive in the next few minutes, we'll have to close." I stared at the empty glass doors, willing them to swing open. They didn't. Not this time. Not the first time. The third time. My fiancé had missed our courthouse wedding for the third time in less than 6 months. Around me, strangers avoided eye contact. A young couple standing in line whispered to each other before the man quietly slipped his arm around his bride-to-be. An elderly woman sitting near the entrance gave me a sad smile that somehow made everything hurt even more. My phone buzzed. For one impossible second, hope rushed back into my chest. Maybe he was running in. Maybe there had been a wreck. Maybe his phone had died. Maybe. His text appeared. "I'm so sorry, babe. Something came up. I'll explain later." That was it. No phone call. No apology worth believing. Just 9 words that shattered the future I'd spent 4 years building. I looked down at the white courthouse dress I'd bought because he said spending thousands on a wedding gown before the real ceremony didn't make sense. "It's only paperwork," he'd laughed. Except it wasn't. It was supposed to be our beginning. Instead, it became my ending. I quietly folded the marriage license, placed it inside my purse, and walked out of the courthouse without crying. Not because I wasn't devastated, because I had run out of tears. My name is Madison Carter. I'm 33 years old, and for most of my life, I believed that if you loved someone enough, they'd eventually choose you. I was wrong. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, with parents who stayed married for 42 years. They weren't perfect. They argued about money. My dad forgot anniversaries. Mom complained about his terrible driving. But every morning he kissed her goodbye before work, and every night he came home. He always came home. That consistency shaped everything I believed about love. When I was 29, I met Ethan Brooks at a neighborhood charity fundraiser. He was funny, confident, the kind of man who remembered small details. The first time we talked, I mentioned loving strawberry cheesecake. 3 days later, he surprised me with one from my favorite bakery. "I pay attention," he said with a grin. That sentence became one of the reasons I fell for him. He paid attention. At least in the beginning. We moved in together after 18 months. His mother, Diane, welcomed me like family. His younger sister, Chloe, hugged me every time we met. His best friend, Brandon, joked that Ethan had finally grown up. Everything looked perfect from the outside. As it Tiny cracks had already started forming. He canceled date nights because work got busy, forgot birthdays, showed up late to dinners, left me waiting at restaurants. Each apology sounded sincere. "I'll do better. I promise. It won't happen again." Every promise bought him another chance. Looking back now, I realize something painful. Love didn't blind me. Hope did. 2 years into our relationship, Ethan proposed during a weekend trip to Chicago. People clapped. Someone recorded the moment. I cried so hard I could barely say yes. He slipped the ring onto my finger. "I can't wait to marry you." I believed every word. We planned a beautiful fall wedding. Then 6 months before the ceremony, Ethan suggested we get legally married first. "It'll make insurance and taxes easier." Sounded practical. Responsible. So we scheduled our courthouse appointment. The morning arrived. Waited. He never showed. His excuse: a major client meeting had unexpectedly been moved. I couldn't get out of it. I was disappointed, but I understood. Life happens. We rescheduled. 6 weeks later, he missed it again. This time his explanation was even worse. My truck broke down. Except later that week, Brandon accidentally mentioned golfing with Ethan that same afternoon. When I confronted Ethan, he insisted Brandon had remembered the day wrong. He sounded offended that I'd questioned him. I ended up apologizing. I apologized, even though something deep inside whispered that the story didn't make sense. That whisper grew louder, but I kept ignoring it. 'Cause I loved him. Because weddings are stressful. Because everyone said relationships take work. Because walking away felt harder than believing another excuse. 3 months before our big wedding, my maid of honor, Jenna, asked a question I'd been avoiding. Madison. What? Are you sure Ethan wants to get married? The room suddenly felt smaller. What kind of question is that? She hesitated. I've just noticed. Every important commitment seems to come from you. I laughed. Too quickly. You're overthinking. Am I? He proposed. I know. He booked the venue. I know. He loves me. She nodded slowly. I hope that's enough. Her words stayed with me long after she left. The third courthouse appointment was supposed to erase all those doubts. Ethan promised nothing would stop him. He even kissed my forehead that morning before leaving. I'll meet you there. I watched him drive away, smiling, completely unaware that those would be the last words I'd ever believe. When he failed to appear, when that pathetic text arrived, something inside me finally broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, like a thread pulled too many times. I drove home in silence. The apartment was empty. His suit still hung in the closet. His favorite coffee mug sat in the sink. Everything looked normal. Except my heart knew nothing would ever be normal again. I opened my laptop and logged into the account we used to pay wedding vendors. The balance showed nearly $40,000 already spent. Flowers, catering, music, photography, venue. Everything was ready. Except the groom. As I stared at the screen, another notification appeared. Not from Ethan. From someone I didn't recognize. An anonymous email. No subject line. Only one attachment. My hands trembled as I opened it. It was a photo. Ethan, standing outside a downtown restaurant, holding another woman's hand. The timestamp was from exactly 32 minutes earlier. The exact moment he was supposed to be standing beside me in the courthouse saying, I do. Before I could even process what I was seeing, another email arrived. This one contained only a single sentence. If you think that's bad, you don't know who she really is. I couldn't breathe. My hands froze over the keyboard while my heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. The photo couldn't be real. It had to be edited. Someone was trying to ruin my relationship. That explanation made the most sense. At least it was the one I wanted to believe. I enlarged the picture until it became blurry. Ethan was wearing the navy blue suit he had promised to wear to the courthouse. His hair was styled exactly the way I'd seen it that morning. The silver watch I bought him for his birthday gleamed under the afternoon sun. And the woman. She wasn't just standing beside him. Their fingers were intertwined. The kind of hand-holding that didn't happen by accident. I slammed my laptop shut. No, I whispered into the empty apartment. No, no, no. My phone rang. Ethan. For a long moment, I stared at his name. Then I answered. Madison, baby, I'm so sorry. His voice sounded calm. How come? What came up? Yes. Silence. I told you something unexpected happened. What? It isn't something I can explain over the phone. Closed my eyes. Try. Another pause. I'll tell you tonight. No. What do you mean no? I asked you a simple question. I know, but what happened that was more important than marrying me? He sighed heavily, as if I were being unreasonable. You know how stressful work has been. So it was work. Yes. I looked at the closed laptop. The lie landed before the truth even had a chance to. You promise. I swear. My throat tightened. He didn't even hesitate. He lied so naturally that I wondered how many other lies had sounded exactly like this. I have to go, I said quietly. Madison. I'll see you tonight. I hung up before he could say another word. I spent the next hour pacing our apartment. Every memory suddenly felt different. Every excuse. Every cancelled dinner. Every late-night meeting. Every forgotten anniversary. Had I really been this blind? The anonymous email kept pulling me back. Finally, I opened the laptop again. There was a third message. This time there was no attachment. Only instructions. Don't confront him yet. If you want the truth, be at Willow Street Cafe tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Come alone. No signature. No explanation. Just that. My first instinct was to delete it. My second was to call the police. Instead, I called Jenna. She answered on the second ring. How did it go? I couldn't speak. Madison. He didn't come. A long silence followed. Oh, Maddie. And someone sent me pictures. What pictures? I forwarded the email. Less than a minute later, my phone rang again. This isn't fake, Jenna said immediately. You don't know that. I do. How? Look at the reflection in the restaurant window. I zoomed in. The reflection showed a city bus passing by. The bus number matched the downtown route. It wasn't edited. It was real. I think I'm going to throw up. You need to leave that apartment. What? If he's lying to you, don't be there alone when he gets home. I need answers. You need safety. Her words settled over me. Not because I thought Ethan would hurt me physically, but because emotional betrayal has a way of making you question your own judgment. That evening, Ethan came home carrying flowers. White roses. My favorite. Normally, they would have melted my anger. Instead, they made me furious. He smiled nervously. I know today was awful. I looked at the bouquet. You remembered my favorite flowers. Of course. But you forgot our wedding. His smile disappeared. I told you. Work. Yes. I walked to the kitchen, picked up my laptop, and placed it on the dining table. Then explain this. His face changed the instant he saw the photo. Not confusion. Recognition. His shoulders stiffened. His eyes darted away. I can explain. I laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the sound someone makes when their heart finally gives up. You always can. It isn't what it looks like. Really. She's an old friend. Friends hold hands now. He hesitated. It was emotional. Why? He rubbed the back of his neck. She was upset. So you skipped our wedding. I didn't skip it. You were over an hour away. I planned to come afterward. I stared at him. He actually expected me to believe that. You planned to marry me after your date. It wasn't a date. His voice rose for the first time. I'm trying to explain. No, I said quietly. You're trying to manage what I know. That sentence hit him harder than anything else I'd said. For a brief moment, neither of us spoke. Finally he whispered. Who sent you this? Wrong question. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I messed up. He wanted to know who exposed him. I don't know. His expression darkened. Someone wasn't just lying to me. Someone else knew the truth. And Ethan was scared of that. He spent nearly an hour insisting nothing romantic had happened. Her name was supposedly Rachel. They'd known each other years ago. She had called because of a family emergency. She needed support. He didn't want to tell me because I was already stressed about the wedding. Every explanation sounded polished, prepared, almost rehearsed. Then I asked one simple question. If she needed support so badly, why didn't you tell me before you went? He blinked. You tell me when Brandon needs help. Silence. You tell me when your mother calls. Silence. You tell me when work is overwhelming. Still nothing. So why hide Rachel? His mouth opened. Nothing came out. For the first time in years. He had no lie ready. That night, he slept in the guest room. I barely slept at all. At 11:15 the next morning, I parked outside Willow Street Cafe. Every instinct told me to leave. Instead, I walked inside. A woman around 60 stood as soon as she saw me. She smiled sadly. You must be Madison. My stomach tightened. Do I know you? No. Then who are you? She reached into her purse and slowly placed a photograph on the table. Showed Ethan. The same woman from yesterday. and two little girls who looked about 6 and 8 years old. My voice barely came out. Who are they? The older woman looked me directly in the eyes. They're my granddaughters. I frowned. I don't understand. You will. She slid another document across the table. This is why I asked you to come. I looked down. It was a birth certificate. The father's name read Ethan Brooks. If this story has you hooked, let me know where you're watching from in the comments. I always love seeing how far these stories travel. And I have to ask, if your fiancé missed your wedding 3 times, would you have given them another chance, or would you have walked away sooner? Share your thoughts in the comments. I read the birth certificate 3 times before the words finally settled into my mind. Father. Ethan Michael Brooks. No, I whispered. There has to be another Ethan Brooks. The older woman didn't interrupt. She simply watched me with the kind of expression people wear when they know someone else's world is falling apart. My name is Linda, she said softly. I'm Rachel's mother. Rachel. The woman from the photograph. The woman Ethan insisted was just an old friend. I slowly looked back down at the document. The little girl had been born 7 years ago. 7. I had known Ethan for only 4 years. That didn't make him innocent. It made him a liar long before I entered his life. I don't understand, I finally managed. Linda reached into her purse again and placed another birth certificate beside the first one. Then another. There were 2 daughters. Both listed Ethan Brooks as their father. I felt like someone had reached inside my chest and squeezed every ounce of air out of my lungs. I don't. I know, Linda whispered. You don't deserve this. Tears filled my eyes, but they refused to fall. I was too shocked to cry. Were they married? Yes. Linda nodded slowly. They weren't legally married. But they lived together. They planned a future. I leaned back in my chair. The cafe around us continued as if nothing extraordinary was happening. Coffee machines hissed. People laughed. Someone celebrated a birthday in the corner. Meanwhile, my entire life had just split into 2 pieces. Does Rachel know about me? Linda gave a painful smile. She does now. What does that mean? For a long time, Ethan told her you were just a coworker. My stomach twisted. When she learned you were engaged. Linda paused. She realized he'd been living 2 completely different lives. I couldn't stop shaking. How? Linda sighed. He travels for work, doesn't he? He nodded. That's what he told both of you. Everything suddenly made sense. The overnight business trips. The weekends he claimed to be visiting clients. The conferences. The last-minute schedule changes. He hadn't been traveling for work. He'd been traveling between 2 relationships. Covered my mouth. Oh my God. Linda nodded. We suspected something for over a year. Why didn't Rachel leave? Because every time she confronted him, he promised he was ending things with you. I stared at her. What? He told her your relationship was already over. The room blurred. So, while he was promising to marry me, Linda finished the sentence. He was promising Rachel that he was coming home. I wanted to hate Rachel. It would have been easier. Is it? I pitied her. She had been lied to too. Why contact me now? Linda reached for her coffee but didn't drink it. Because yesterday was supposed to change everything. What do you mean? Ethan promised Rachel he'd finally tell you the truth. Is it? He skipped our courthouse wedding. Not to confess. Not to choose. To buy himself more time. He met Rachel yesterday to convince her to stay quiet. I remembered the photo. The hand-holding. He was comforting her. Linda nodded. She wanted to leave him. And he convinced her not to. No. She looked directly into my eyes. You interrupted his plan. I frowned. I wasn't there. No. Linda sighed. But whoever took that picture sent it to you before Ethan could control the story. Someone had been watching him. Someone wanted the truth to come out. But who? I drove home in complete silence. Every red light felt longer than usual. Every familiar street suddenly looked unfamiliar. When I reached the apartment, Ethan wasn't there. Instead, I found flowers on the kitchen counter. Another apology note. "I'm sorry about yesterday. We can fix this. Love you." I laughed. Actually laughed. Not because it was funny. Because the words looked ridiculous now. I picked up the note and threw it into the trash. Then I opened the hallway closet. His jackets. His shoes. His golf clubs. I looked at everything he'd left behind. For years, I'd treated these things like pieces of our shared life. Now they looked like evidence. I grabbed 3 large storage bins from the garage. If Ethan wanted to live 2 lives, he could start by collecting the belongings from the one he was about to lose. Halfway through packing, my phone buzzed. It was Diane, his mother. For a second, I considered ignoring the call. Instead, I answered. "Hi, Diane." Her cheerful voice immediately faded. "Honey, what's wrong?" I hadn't realized how broken I sounded. "I know." Silence. "What do you know?" "Everything." Another silence. Longer this time. Finally, she whispered something that made my knees nearly give out. "I prayed you'd never find out this way." My heart stopped. "You knew." She started crying. "Oh, Madison. You knew." "I begged him to tell you." My legs gave out, and I slid down the hallway wall until I was sitting on the floor. "How long?" She couldn't answer. "Diane." "A little over a year." 1 year. 1 entire year. His own mother had known. She'd hugged me, come dress shopping, hosted engagement dinners, smiled in photographs, all while knowing her son was betraying me. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I thought he would. You watched me plan my wedding." "I know. You watched me send invitations." "I know. You watched me love your son." "I know." Each answer sounded smaller than the last. "I am so sorry." Sorry. The word felt meaningless. That evening, Jenna came over with takeout. She looked around at the packed boxes. "You've been busy." "I'm done waiting." She smiled sadly. "I'm proud of you." I wasn't proud. I was exhausted. She helped tape another box shut. "What are you going to do about the wedding?" I looked toward the dining room where seating charts still sat neatly arranged. Nearly 200 guests. Flights booked. Hotel reservations. Thousands of dollars already spent. "I don't know. You could cancel." "I could. But..." I stared at the wedding invitation hanging on the refrigerator. Something inside me shifted. Slowly. Quietly. Like a door opening. "No." Jenna looked confused. "No. I don't think I'm going to cancel." She blinked. "What are you talking about?" A strange calm settled over me. For the first time in 2 days. I wasn't thinking like a heartbroken bride. I was thinking like someone who had finally stopped being manipulated. If Ethan wants everyone to believe we're getting married. I folded another piece of tape over one of his boxes. Then maybe I should let everyone show up. Jenna stared at me. "Madison." A slow smile spread across my face. Not because I was happy. Because for the first time in years, I had a plan. And Ethan had absolutely no idea what was waiting for him at our wedding. What would you have done if you discovered your fiancé had been living a double life? Would you expose the truth publicly? Or walk away without saying a word? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you've ever experienced betrayal or uncovered a shocking secret, tell us your story below. Your experience might help someone else who feels alone. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was crying. Those tears had finally dried up. Instead, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation I'd had with Ethan over the past 4 years. Every promise. Every excuse. Every smile that I had mistaken for honesty. By sunrise, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to throw things. And I definitely wasn't going to let Ethan paint me as the heartbroken woman who overreacted. For 4 years he'd controlled the story. Now it was my turn. The next morning I called our wedding planner, Melissa. Good morning, Madison, she answered cheerfully. Only 2 weeks to go. Are you excited? I almost laughed. Actually, I need your help. Anything. I don't want to cancel. She sounded relieved. Oh, thank goodness. I was worried after Ethan called yesterday. Froze. Ethan called you? Yes. He said there had been a little disagreement and asked whether the deposits were refundable. My grip tightened around the phone. He did. He sounded nervous. Of course he had. He wasn't worried about losing me. He was worried about losing $40,000. Melissa, I said calmly, don't change a single thing. Everything stays. Everything. She hesitated. Are you sure? I'm absolutely sure. After hanging up, I smiled for the first time in days. Not because I was happy. Because Ethan thought he was still in control. Over the next week, I quietly started making phone calls. Not to guests. To people who deserved the truth. The first call was to Brandon. Ethan's best man. Yeah. I need to ask you something. Sure. How long have you known about Rachel? Silence. Complete silence. Brandon. He sighed so heavily I could hear the guilt. I hoped you'd never ask me that. So. You knew. I found out 8 months ago. Closed my eyes. Did everyone know except me? No. But enough people did. Why didn't you tell me? He made me promise. I laughed bitterly. You kept his promise. I know. You broke mine. His voice cracked. I'm sorry, Madison. So am I. Hung up. One more person crossed off the list of people I thought I could trust. Later that afternoon my phone rang again. This time it was Rachel. I almost declined. Instead I answered. Hello. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally she whispered. I'm sorry. It wasn't what I expected. I thought you hated me. I don't. You should. No. She sniffled. I thought you knew. Those 6 words broke something inside me. I didn't. I know that now. She sounded just as exhausted as I felt. He told me your relationship ended months ago. And he told me you were just an old friend. We both laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because the same man had destroyed 2 women using 2 different lies. I left him, Rachel said quietly. When? The day after your courthouse wedding. So the picture. I told him it was over. And he held your hand. I let him. He paused. I was saying goodbye. For the first time I saw Rachel not as the other woman, but as another victim. 3 days before the wedding, Ethan finally cornered me outside the apartment. Madison, please. Kept walking. He followed. Can we talk? We've done enough talking. I've made mistakes. Mistakes. His shoulders dropped. I lied. You lived 2 lives. I can fix this. I stopped walking. No. I'll go to counseling. No. I'll cut everyone off. No. I'll spend the rest of my life making this right. I looked directly into his eyes. The rest of your life belongs to your daughters. His face turned white. Rachel hadn't told him we'd spoken. He realized it instantly. You met her. I met someone who finally told me the truth. He reached for my hand. I stepped back. I never stopped loving you. I shook my head. No. What? You never loved either of us. He looked confused. You loved being admired. You loved being forgiven. You loved believing there would always be another chance. His eyes filled with tears. I don't want to lose you. You already did. I walked away without looking back. The wedding day arrived. Guests filled the beautiful garden overlooking the lake. White roses lined the aisle. The string quartet played softly. Nearly 200 people smiled as they found their seats. Everyone believed they were about to witness a love story. Only a handful of us knew they were actually about to witness the truth. Back in the bridal suite, Jenna zipped up my wedding dress. You look incredible. I don't feel like a bride. She smiled. You don't have to. Melissa knocked gently. 5 minutes. He nodded. Instead of picking up my bouquet, I picked up a small white envelope. Inside it were copies of the 2 birth certificates, the anonymous photograph, printed text messages Rachel had shared, and 1 handwritten letter. Not from me. From Rachel. A letter describing how Ethan had promised marriage to both of us. I tucked everything inside my bouquet. One final surprise. Outside, Ethan stood at the altar smiling confidently. His tuxedo fit perfectly. Anyone looking at him would have seen the picture-perfect groom. Only I knew how carefully that picture had been painted. The music changed. I stood. My father offered me his arm. You ready? I smiled gently. More than I've ever been. We started walking down the aisle. Every eye followed us. Every camera flashed. Ethan smiled wider. He thought he had won. He thought I had forgiven him. He thought this wedding was really happening. When I reached the altar, the officiant smiled. Dearly beloved. I raised my hand. I'm sorry. The music stopped. So are we beginning late? The officiant asked quietly. No. I turned toward the guests. I'm actually here to end something. A wave of confused whispers swept across the garden. Ethan's smile disappeared. Madison. I looked at him one last time. Then I faced every friend, every family member, every person who had come to celebrate us. I took the envelope from my bouquet. I think everyone here deserves to know why there won't be a wedding today. The first document slid into my hand. Ethan lunged toward me. Don't. But it was already too late. Ethan's hand stopped halfway between us. Not because he changed his mind. Because my father stepped in front of me. Don't, Dad said quietly. It wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. For the first time since I'd known him, Ethan looked afraid. The garden fell completely silent. Even the string quartet had lowered their instruments. Nearly 200 people watched us, waiting for someone to explain why a wedding had suddenly turned into a confrontation. I took a deep breath. My name is Madison Carter. A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd. I know you all know that. They also know why we're here, Ethan interrupted. His voice was shaking. I looked at him. No. They know why they were invited. They don't know why they should leave. I held up the first birth certificate. This belongs to Ethan Brooks' oldest daughter. Gasps spread through the audience. Then I held up the second. And this belongs to his younger daughter. Someone dropped a champagne glass. It shattered against the stone patio. The sound echoed through the silence. I wasn't finished. For 4 years, I believed I was building a future with this man. I looked around at the faces in front of me. My fiancé told me he wanted honesty. He told me family mattered. He told me loyalty meant everything. I smiled sadly. Meanwhile, he was living 2 completely different lives. Murmurs filled the garden. People looked at one another in disbelief. Ethan stepped toward me. Please. No. You don't understand. I laughed softly. For once. I understand perfectly. I handed the documents to the officiant. Please pass these around. The officiant hesitated. Then he nodded. Within seconds, people were reading the birth certificates. The whispers became conversations. The conversations became outrage. Diane stood up first. She was crying. She walked toward me instead of her son. I'm sorry. The words came out between sobs. I should have told you. He nodded. Yes. I was trying to protect my family. I looked gently into her eyes. You protected the wrong person. She broke down completely. For the first time, I saw a mother realizing that loving her son didn't mean excusing him. She walked away without another word. Then Rachel appeared. Most of the guests turned to look as she slowly walked down the aisle. She wasn't wearing a fancy dress. Just jeans, a simple blouse, and tired eyes. The little girls weren't with her. Thank goodness. Children shouldn't have to witness something like this. Rachel stopped a few feet away from me. Then she faced everyone. My name is Rachel. I've been with Ethan for almost 9 years. The crowd collectively gasped. We have 2 daughters together. She held up a photograph. Ethan promised me every year that he was leaving another woman. Her eyes found mine. I didn't know Madison was planning a wedding. I thought she'd already left. She looked at the guests again. We were both lied to. That sentence changed everything. People stopped looking at Rachel like she was the other woman. They finally saw the truth. There wasn't one victim. There were 2. Ethan looked around desperately. None of this is how it looks. Brandon stood up from the front row. Stop. Everyone turned. I knew. His voice cracked. I found out months ago. He looked directly at me. I should have told you. Then he faced the crowd. I chose loyalty to my friend instead of doing the right thing. He lowered his head. I'll regret that for the rest of my life. One by one, other people admitted what they knew. A cousin who suspected. An uncle who asked questions. A co-worker who covered for fake business trips. No one knew everything. But enough people knew pieces of the truth. Enough pieces to build a lie around me. I realized something heartbreaking. Betrayal rarely belongs to one person. Silence helps it grow. The officiant quietly closed his book. I don't believe my services are needed today. A few guests actually laughed. Not because the situation was funny. Because the tension had finally broken. My father walked over beside me. You okay, sweetheart? I looked around. The flowers. Chairs. The decorations I'd spent months choosing. Bully. I am. And for the first time in years. Meant it. Over the next several hours, guests slowly left. Many hugged me. Some apologized for not seeing the warning signs. Others admitted they'd noticed things but didn't want to interfere. Jenna stayed beside me until the very last chair was folded away. She squeezed my hand. So, what now? I looked across the empty garden. Now, I get my life back. 6 months later, I was sitting in a therapist's office. Not because I was broken, because I wanted to understand why I'd ignored so many red flags. Healing wasn't about pretending the past never happened. It was about making sure it didn't happen again. Therapy taught me something powerful. Love without honesty isn't love. It's performance. And I had spent 4 years applauding a performance. 1 year later, I bought my first home. A small white house with a blue front door. Exactly the kind of place I'd once imagined sharing with Ethan. It became something better. I painted every room the colors I loved. I planted flowers Ethan always said were too much work. Every choice reminded me that peace doesn't have to be shared to be meaningful. Sometimes, peace begins the moment you stop begging someone to become who they promised they already were. About 18 months after the wedding that never happened, I ran into Diane at a grocery store. She looked older. Better. She hugged me carefully. I wanted you to know. Ethan's finally in counseling. He nodded. I hope he keeps going. He sees his daughters every weekend now. I'm glad. She smiled through tears. You really changed him. I shook my head. No. He changed because he finally had to live with the truth. There was an important difference. People don't change because someone loves them enough. They change because they choose to. As for Rachel, we never became best friends. But every now and then we'd exchange a text message. Mostly about ordinary things. Birthdays. Job promotions. Funny stories. Not because we were tied together by Ethan, but because we survived the same storm. She once sent me a message I'll never forget. He broke our hearts, but he didn't get to keep our futures. I still have it saved. Looking back now, I don't think the biggest betrayal was Ethan missing our courthouse wedding 3 times. It wasn't even the lies. The biggest betrayal was how many times I convinced myself that love required me to accept less than I deserved. Doesn't. Real love shows up. Real love tells the truth. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink your standards so someone else can avoid growing. If someone repeatedly shows you that you're not their priority, believe them. Don't wait for a fourth chance to teach you what the first three already did. Walking away wasn't the moment I lost my future. It was the moment I found it. Thank you for listening to my story. Have you ever experienced betrayal like this? What would you have done if you were in my place? Share your story in the comments. I read everyone, and your experience may encourage someone else who needs the strength to choose themselves.